Welcome to an amazing story that will inspire you and help you learn English at the same time. Today, we will explore the life of Albert Einstein, a man whose ideas and bravery changed the world. While listening, pay attention to new words and phrases. This video is not just about learning English. It's also about how curiosity and never giving up can lead to success. So, grab your notebook, listen carefully, and let's go on this journey together. Improve your listening, grow your vocabulary, and find inspiration in the story of a true genius. Childhood. Albert Einstein was born on March 14, 1879, in Ulm, a small city in Germany. His parents were Hermann Einstein and Pauline Koch. Hermann worked in the electrical business, and Pauline stayed at home and loved music and learning. When Albert was born, nothing seemed special, except his head was larger than normal. His family joked about it and wondered if he would grow up like other children. But this little boy would someday change the world. As a child, Albert was very quiet. He didn't say a word until he was nearly 3 years old. This worried his parents. Some people thought something might be wrong. His family even called him the quiet one, because he didn't talk much, even when other kids were playing and chatting. But Albert wasn't slow, he was deep in thought. He would sit for a long time, just watching things around him, trying to understand how they worked. At age 5, his father gave him a small compass. It changed his life. Albert didn't understand how the needle always pointed north. He became fascinated by it. He stared at the compass for hours, wondering what invisible force was moving the needle. That moment sparked his interest in science. He later said, "That moment made a strong and lasting memory in my mind." School was hard for Albert. He didn't like the way teachers taught. At that time, schools were very strict. Students had to memorize facts. But Albert didn't want to memorize, he wanted to ask why and how. His teachers didn't like this. One even said, "You're a failure. You'll never do well in life." Those words hurt, but Albert didn't let them stop him. He had trouble with subjects like language. But there was one subject he loved deeply, math. He called it the language of the universe and enjoyed solving problems like puzzles. Albert's family always believed in him. His mother saw his love for music and encouraged him to learn the violin. At first, he didn't enjoy it, but later, music helped him think and feel calm. His uncle Jacob also helped him a lot. Jacob liked math and made it fun for Albert. He once told Albert, "Math is like hunting for treasure. Every problem is a clue to find the answer." This made Albert love numbers even more. Albert was different from other kids. While others played, he read books and imagined how things worked. He liked reading about famous scientists and dreamed of making big discoveries. One day after school, he asked himself, "What if I could ride on a beam of light?" This question stayed in his mind for years. It started his lifelong journey to understand light, time, and space. Education. When Albert was 15, things became hard. His father's business failed, and the family moved to Italy. Albert stayed in Germany to finish school, but he missed his family a lot and felt very sad. Soon, he decided to leave school without finishing it. He couldn't deal with the rules and strict teachers anymore. So, he began studying by himself. He read science, philosophy, and math books, learning whatever he wanted. This choice was risky. Many thought he ruined his future. But Albert believed that learning freely was more important than school rules. By age 16, Albert wrote his first science paper. It wasn't perfect, but it showed his great potential. He also applied to a well-known school in Switzerland called the Swiss Federal Polytechnic School. But he failed the entrance test because he wasn't good at subjects like French and history. Instead of giving up, he worked harder. He studied more, improved his weak points, and didn't let failure stop him. Albert's early years were full of struggles and rejection. Many didn't understand him. But he didn't quit. His love for learning and strong spirit pushed him forward. Persistence and early career. Albert wanted to make something of his life. After leaving Germany, he moved to Switzerland. Schools there were different, they let students think freely. This helped Albert feel more at home. At 17, Albert tried again to get into the Swiss Federal Polytechnic in Zurich. This time, he passed. But things still weren't easy. Though he was now in a top school, his strong opinions made it hard to get along with his teachers. He loved math and physics but didn't care about other classes. Some teachers didn't like his attitude. One said, "You're clever, Einstein, but you lack discipline." Albert was not the top student. He often skipped class and studied on his own. While others followed the lessons, he asked big questions. What is light? How does time pass? Why is there gravity? These were not normal questions, and most people didn't have answers. While at school, Albert met Mileva Marek, the only female physics student in his class. She was smart and loved science too. They became close friends and would talk about science for hours. Mileva became more than a friend, she became his partner. They encouraged each other and dreamed of making discoveries. Albert once wrote to her, "Together, we'll change the world of science." But their journey was tough. Mileva was judged for being a woman in science, and Albert didn't have much money. Still, they supported one another. In 1900, at 21, Albert finished school with a degree in physics. He hoped to work as a scientist, but life was not easy. He couldn't find a job. He applied for university positions but got rejected again and again. His teachers didn't recommend him because they thought he lacked motivation. It was a hard time. Imagine studying for years and getting no job. But Albert didn't give up. He took any work he could find. In 1902, he finally got a job as a clerk at the Swiss Patent Office in Bern. His job was to check if inventions were original. It wasn't exciting, and it had nothing to do with science, at first. Albert felt disappointed. He wanted to be a scientist, not a clerk. But he didn't complain. Instead, he made the best of it. The job gave him free time, and he used it to think deeply about science. He began calling the patent office his thinking lab. While working, he quietly wrote ideas about light, time, and space. He chased his dream, even if it meant working late into the night after his job. In 1903, Albert married Mileva. Their wedding was small and simple. Soon after, they had their first son, Hans Albert Einstein. Even though they were happy, life was tough. Albert's job as a clerk didn't pay much, and the family had trouble with money. They lived in a tiny apartment and struggled to cover their daily needs. Many of Albert's friends told him to stop thinking about science and focus on earning money. But Albert said, "I would rather struggle for my passion than live comfortably without purpose." No matter how hard things were, Albert kept working on his ideas. In 1905, when he was 26, he released several papers that changed science forever. That year is now known as Einstein's Miracle Year, or Annus Mirabilis. The Miracle Year, 1905. The photoelectric effect. Albert showed that light is made of small particles called photons. This idea later earned him the Nobel Prize in Physics. Brownian motion. He explained how atoms exist and move, which was a big scientific discovery. Special theory of relativity. This was Albert's most famous idea. He said that time and space depend on how fast something is moving. His famous formula E equals mc squared came from this theory, showing that matter and energy are connected. These papers surprised scientists all over the world. Albert, a man with no top university job, had changed physics forever. After 1905, Albert's life began to improve. More scientists saw his talent and invited him to teach. He became a professor in many schools. Finally, his hard work was paying off. But Albert stayed humble. He kept asking deep questions and looking for new truths. He believed that learning never ends and curiosity was the best teacher. Albert's journey, from a poor office worker to a world-famous scientist, shows how powerful it is to never give up. He faced hard times, but his love for science never faded. His story teaches us. Failures can lead to success. Believing in yourself is more important than praise. Great dreams need great effort. Rise to fame. By 1909, Albert Einstein was famous across Europe for his scientific ideas. He became a professor at the University of Zurich and later moved to Prague to teach at a German university. During these years, Albert began to understand how big his work was. People started calling him a genius, a man who could answer the universe's biggest questions. But Albert didn't like being called a genius. He said, "I am no genius. I am simply curious. I stay with questions longer than others." Fame also brought problems. Albert didn't care about looks or money. He wore the same clothes and lived simply, focusing only on his ideas. While people praised him, Albert knew there was still much to do. World War I and personal struggles. In 1914, Albert took a job in Berlin, Germany, working at the Prussian Academy of Sciences. This was a big step because now he had full freedom to research. At the same time, the world was heading into war. World War I began, and many scientists supported it. But Albert didn't. He wanted peace and used his voice to speak against violence. During this time, his marriage to Mileva started to fall apart. Fame and their past money problems caused problems in their relationship. In 1919, they divorced. Still, Albert made sure Mileva and their sons were taken care of. That same year, something amazing happened. British scientists tested Albert's general theory of relativity, which he had worked on since 1915. The results showed that gravity can bend light. This changed how people understood the universe. The news spread fast. Headlines read, "Einstein's theory proven true." Overnight, Albert became famous all over the world. For the first time, a scientist became a global star. When asked about his fame, Albert joked, "If my theories are wrong, the Americans will say I'm German, and the Germans will say I'm Jewish. If I'm right, the Germans will say I'm German, and the Americans will say I'm Jewish. This quote showed his clever mind and the hate he faced for being Jewish. Global influence and advocacy for peace. In the 1920s, Albert traveled around the world to give talks and meet other scientists. He visited the United States, Japan, and other countries to share his knowledge and ideas. He used his fame to support peace. He said, "Peace cannot be kept by force. It can only be achieved by understanding." He also stood up for minorities and refugees who needed help and a voice. But not everyone agreed with his views. Some said he was too idealistic, and others tried to bring him down. Still, Albert didn't stop. He said, "Great spirits have always encountered violent opposition from mediocre minds." Escape from the Nazis and life in America. In 1933, when the Nazis took power in Germany, Albert had to escape. As a Jewish scientist, he was in great danger. The Nazis destroyed his books and called his work Jewish science. Albert left Germany and moved to Princeton, New Jersey, in the U.S. There, he worked at the Institute for Advanced Study. He felt sad about what was happening in his home country, but he stayed hopeful. He said, "In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity." In 1940, Albert became a U.S. citizen. He lived the rest of his life in America. During World War II, the U.S. asked him to help with the atomic bomb. Albert didn't build the bomb, but his formula E=mc² helped scientists understand nuclear power. Albert was heartbroken when bombs hit Hiroshima and Nagasaki. He felt sad that his work was used to hurt people. From that day, he worked hard to stop nuclear weapons. He said, "Mankind invented the atomic bomb, but no mouse would ever construct a mousetrap." Later years and legacy. Even as one of the world's most famous people, Albert lived simply. He didn't own a car, didn't wear socks, and loved to sail, even though he couldn't swim. His curiosity never faded. He kept asking big questions, like what black holes are and if time travel is possible. He believed there is always more to learn. In his final years, he worked on a new theory to connect all the forces in nature. It was a hard task and remains unsolved even today. Though his health was getting worse, he kept working. Albert Einstein died on April 18, 1955, at the age of 76. His final words were in German, but the nurse beside him didn't speak the language, so they were lost forever. Albert Einstein gave the world more than science. He gave hope, wisdom, and proof that one person can truly make a difference. His story reminds us. Hard times build strong people. Albert faced failure, poverty, and war, but kept moving forward. Curiosity leads to discovery. He showed us how to keep asking questions. Real greatness is quiet. Even with fame, he stayed kind and humble. Today, the name Einstein means genius. But his life was about more than intelligence. It was about never giving up, standing strong, and daring to believe in something bigger. Albert once said, "Try not to become a person of success, but rather try to become a person of value." Let that guide your journey, too.